just agree with what you said. I won't lie. It's made me uncomfortable that other video is there. But the truth is it's really important. And I've noticed there's not any other videos like that on the CanCard's Instagram.
There's
So,
none like it anywhere, mate. Doesn't exist
well,
anywhere.
this is the thing. This is the thing. So it's such an important thing, and I've been on a weird buzz since it happened because growing up in England, half of the fun of recreational cannabis use is the fact it's illegal. So it's a bit of a naughty thing you do. So all my life, I've been a bit naughty anyway, until about 10 years ago. And I've not been a criminal. I've been reading books, studying, doing sports, trying to be a normal person. Yet you always have to buy drugs off a drug dealer. I always smoke weed. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
almost like, and there's times where I think, why do I need this? It's a bit like being a junkie because I genuinely need this. So when you think of it that way, you're going to buy a drug from a drug dealer, you sort of put yourself down without actually doing it. You are lowering your status. So
100%. Yeah,
when all
yeah.
this happened, it opened my eyes that the police have handed me back. They've took it to the police station, logged it in.
Hmm.
It's gone. I
Yeah.
never thought. Well, I was called them up. My mate was laughing at me, so I'm like, "Bring it back now!" I was losing my stuff because essentially
That's
that was
hilarious,
just a
man.
bill. Like you basically took it right after I bought it. I'm just going to have to buy it again. I'm not rich. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how dare you? So I'm shouting at them, thinking it's already over. It's over. I assumed if I had my card, which I have somewhere, I thought if I show them it, they might just turn a blind eye and go, "All right, keep it out of our sight." I never thought they would go back to the police station, go into the property office, sign it out. I want to know what they wrote. I want to know what
It,
they wrote.
I know,
They've
good point,
signed it
actually.
out. For them to actually bring it out of the station, and as you saw in the video, I've opened the door. I'm expecting them to say, "Stop calling us, shouting at us, or we'll arrest you." That's what I'm waiting for. And they're like, "We've got something to give back to you." And
Yeah,
as
it
you
was
probably
weird.
noticed, it
And he
suddenly went
wasn't,
pretty quiet.
yeah, he wasn't even like a dick about it or anything like that. Like, he wasn't even, when you
He
would
was,
think, do you think so? Was he?
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I said a few times, "So here's my card,"
right. I
and
mean,
he
from
says, "Yeah,
what
that's
I
all
can,
right."
yeah,
And he just looked at it. No, he was lovely, but he just looked at it like that. He didn't. I could have printed that. He didn't
yeah,
check
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I said, "Do you want to take a photo or something just to back yourself up
I saw that.
tomorrow
Yeah, yeah.
if you have just bought me some?" And he's like, "No, mate, it's 2 a.m." But that's where I noticed that, like the psychological thing. No, no, it's 2 a.m. It's 2 a.m. Yeah, why do you care, mate? You're probably on till 6.
Yeah,
Like it's not.
exactly.
You're not rushing home to bed. He didn't care. He just hated the fact he was handing someone in a council estate a half ounce of weed back. He hated it.
You think
That
that's
that's
what it
what I
was?
think. That's
Right.
what I think. Because why
Okay, I
wouldn't you
mean,
want to see the card? If that was me, I'd have had a photo on the work phone just to make sure.
true. For what it was, he
Hmm.
was still cool to as much as he could be. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like it could have been much. I feel like I was like, okay, his attitude is decent. It doesn't. It's not the
Yeah.
worst that it could have been. I've seen so much worse attitude from cops. That to me was like a zero compared to the attitude I've seen with some officers. And that's
Oh
not,
no,
as I said,
100%.
not all officers are like that. But the fact that he checked it, I don't know if he needed to see the card. He had authority, right? So he's probably got a sergeant or something like that. Sergeants gave it the thumbs up. Says like, because he's not going to get authority on that on his own, is he? Really, he has to check that.
No, of course not. No.
And they've seen, all right, okay, well, look, he's registered. They've called us, obviously, right? So we verified you. And then obviously they've been on to the sergeant, and he's just in here, give him it back. Did they
But
know
he
they were on
was nice.
camera?
Well, yeah, it lights up.
Right.
It has got infrared, but I usually have the light flash on just to deter people so they know that I'm watching you. So yeah, they knew it was there. Same when they were taking the door off. In fairness, they knew it was
Taking the
watching
door
them.
off.
Well, that was different officers, and I have to be honest. I think we need to mention this too. I was at the gym, so I'm. We're just finishing, but I'm just finishing off our sets. I think was actually sparring me and a friend, so I wasn't
Mhm.
looking at my phone. We've gone to his car. He was dropping me off, and I've looked, and I'm like, "Oh, there's someone breaking in." I don't know. I don't usually panic till afterwards. So I'm looking at my notifications and it's just throwing like a 3 minute loop. And there's a guy breaking in. I'm like, "Oh, look, they got radios. Don't worry. At least nothing's been stolen." So we've rushed back. I've said, "Well, you wait here. I'm going to walk over and see what's what. They're in the house. So I've said to the guy, "What's going on?" There's a paramedic and the police. They're like, "Are you
Jeez.
okay?" I'm like, well, I was. It depends what's going on, you know. So I'm legitimately shouting at them at this point and saying,
Mm,
what the fuck have you done?
rightly so.
Because like half of the wall is hanging off on the inside, like the door frame had a London bar in it, so it was solid.
Oh, Jesus.
Um,
Okay, so yeah, it's
so
taking
they
the
took all
wall
the
out of the
wall
frame.
off. Um,
Jeez.
so I was shouting at him, saying, "Look, you're acting on old information where I filled out a complaint form for my local council, the landlord, and they said, how does it affect you?" And because it's been going on almost a year, I've said, well, it does cause occasionally suicidal thoughts, you know, which edging on the truth because it does wear you down. It's
Yeah,
my home. It's not a job. I don't go
yeah,
home at 5, you know.
exactly.
So I said this to the cop. I said, you're acting on old information, which wasn't a suicide threat at all. It was
Yeah.
a, how does this
And you
affect you?
can, this way, like sometimes when you type something, you word it in a certain way and you think, oh, I should have worded that better. And actually, there's a much more succinct word for it. Like it could have, like, so I get it. You hastily write an email in anger, right? Or you're
Yeah, but it was old,
frustrated.
though. This is the thing
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
making me shout at him. It was
Weeks
about three
old.
weeks outdated. And I said, you know, even if this was true, how is this going to help me? And he was very apologetic. At no point did he actually, whilst I was shouting, I
Mhm.
kept my distance. Like I wasn't at punching range, you know, we was a bit away, but in my hallway downstairs. And I was acting enough that he could have turned around and said, look, calm down, blah, blah. He didn't once. He was
Yeah.
very understanding. He was agreeing with what I was saying. And he was apologizing. Once I calmed down, he was actually apologizing to me. And I turned around and I said, no, no, you mustn't apologize. At the end of the day, you know, you followed orders because you thought someone was in here potentially dead.
Yeah,
So
that's
you've
fair.
kicked the door off to save a life. You know, you mustn't, as shitty as it is, this isn't malice. You've got nothing to apologize for, you know?
People in the comments
And
certainly seem to think it was out of order, man, but they don't get the context.
well, this is it. This is it. I think it's important to realize that if the police are kicking the door off for a welfare check, ultimately, regardless of their attitude, they're doing it to protect your life.
Hmm.
And what's more valuable to say, you know, anyone, think of a loved one, is their life more important or is their front door more important to you? So
Depends
what,
on the
you know,
front
is it
door, I suppose.
£200 or their life? What's
Well,
more
it depends
important?
on the person, depends on the front door, mate. To be to be honest.
It does. But you see where I'm coming from,
I
because if
get you.
people write
I
in the
fully.
comments, you know, it
Obviously, I'm
is
just
an
joking.
issue,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare, but it's less of a nightmare than a death could have been,
No, of course,
and that's
and
what they
they
were trying to
acted
prevent.
accordingly. Yeah,
And
I
they
think.
did not.
Yeah, they tried. I seen it. They tried. There was no
Mm.
answer. They shouted. They banged really, really hard, and then obviously it progressed to the point where they're like, right, this guy might be in there, and there might be a CO2 leak, or I don't know, whatever. There could be like a carbon monoxide or something. Who knows,
Well,
right?
they were paramedics, weren't they? They thought,
Exactly,
you know, if he's overdosing or whatever, they thought they were literally going to rush in, get me into a stretcher. You know, they were saving a life. They were
exactly.
literally, they weren't coming
People have a lot of questions, and you're right. So you pointed out something very interesting. I've not seen any videos like this ever. Right?
in.
Doesn't exist. Surface internet, Facebook, deep web. Don't know of a video where the guy gets his door kicked in, and inadvertently or mistakenly, and then the cops come back with weed. However long later, and I can see people's point where they would go, "This is dubious," but
Mm.
I mean, this
I
is
don't
a
believe it.
no, and it's you exactly, and it's
I
you.
saw it with my own eyes, and I'm like, nah, this is actually proof that we live in a simulation, as far as I'm concerned.
It's like
This is nonsense. Like, this doesn't
don't
make
go all
sense.
Joe Rogan on us here, man. Like, but the good thing is, like, so this is what people I think don't understand. We CanCard's training us in is in every computer and every police force across the country. If you're a cop and you're watching this and you want to know information about CanCard, go into the office, go into your intranet system and type in CanCard, and you will get our training documents that come up on your computer. And you'll see if a police officer is watching this, you will see why this has happened, why the guidance is to return this medical patient's medicine, because that's what it is. You would never do this to somebody with insulin. You would never do it to somebody with other, drugs like potentially strong opiates. So it's unfair to do it to a cannabis patient. But that is the key takeaway. I think people don't realize, like, actually we're so much further now than we were when you signed up initially, and you were like, oh, like, how is this going to help me? Actually,
Yeah.
you know, but we've done so much work actually to educate police officers and work with them and train with them and actually give them information that allows them to make informed decisions like this, which actually lead to better outcomes. Although sometimes that doesn't go quite perfectly to plan, and they kick your door off the hinges one bit, you know, they use a big iron key. But best case scenario, you get your weed back. Worst case scenario, it takes a bit longer. And you know how many times a day I see somebody getting their cannabis handed back to them after a stop and search or after a police officer's coming in their house without kicking the door off? It's about 10 times a day now. It's frequent, it's so frequent, but never. I think the, the that video of yours is so striking
Yeah.
because it's such a strong, you know, evocative video. Like you can imagine that being your front door. You know, I could imagine it being mine because it made me so angry when I watched it. I went, "What the fuck? Like, how dare these guys do this?" But I never even had the
But
context.
it's important not to make that unconscious connection that this is a cannabis raid, though,
Yeah.
because it wasn't, you know, and I think that's really important. But the other thing I would add is that there is an issue with the police. That they actually seized this without telling me, and that presents an issue. Because when the officer was here, as I said, it had
Hmm.
calmed down. He's very apologetic, and I was being nice back
Yeah, yeah,
before I
yeah.
knew my cannabis had been seized. And I was saying that you're doing your job. You're trying to protect my life. My anger is at the situation, not at you. You've just tried to save my life. And then they've left, and you know they've said, "Do you want referrals or something?" I've said, "Not really, but
Oh,
you can
you
tell the
didn't
council to behave."
know.
And I didn't know. So
Shit.
they've gone. I'm with my friend. We're looking at the door. We were sort of sat there for a minute moaning, saying, because obviously I've got issues with the council landlord as it is.
Right.
Well, this will be another disrepair. That'll take them 20 years to fix. And I said, well, let's go upstairs because I've got a home cinema in the next room. I've got my riser vape in here, so I fill up a bag. I'm looking for my jar, and I'm
Oh, you're
thinking, well,
looking
it's
for the
not
infamous
here.
jar? Feel free
Yeah,
to go
so I
find
keep
it,
it in a
mate.
jar, which people should Google because that's how you cure cannabis properly. Um,
Go.
burping it
If you need
today.
to go and try and find that, crack on. I would love to see the famous jar.
Oh, I can show it right now because I know
Yeah?
where it is. But at the time, I've come up into like here, I'm looking for it, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense because um, where would I put it? You know, it would be here.
Surely I
Where,
can't
where
be
would
this
I?
high. Like,
Yeah. So we come to the conclusion. This is the infamous jar. It's the same one.
nice, nice.
we came to the conclusion that they must have seized it, which was weird because I've got other things. Nothing illegal. Obviously, they didn't seize it, but I've got like
Machine
a
guns,
baton,
samurai
a couple.
swords.
Oh yeah, no, I've got a couple of guns, but they're not illegal,
Right,
obviously,
right, right.
and a couple of things like that. So I'm thinking, well, they're obviously not being, you know, twats because they could have seized almost everything in the house, and they haven't. So that's why I'm still thinking this must be here somewhere.
I must have
It was
misplaced it.
obvious then it wasn't. You know, it got to that point where it's like, no, it's definitely been seized. I could not have misplaced it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
cops have
always
been in the
here.
house. Weed goes missing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's always gonna, I've got the ariser, you know, my vaporizer's right there. So the
Hmm.
weed's gonna be here or there. It's not gonna be
A to
misplaced,
B.
you know. So I've called them up and I've said, look, you've just come out, done this and this. Did you seize anything from the property? They said, not that we're aware of. I said, well, where's my cannabis? Um, they didn't know anything. I've called back up because I got one of those confrontational call handlers who behave like they are the chief of police for the world. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, dude, you're no one. I just need to speak to a real police officer. Why are you in the way? So
yeah,
I called
yeah, yeah.
back. I got through this time. They said, yes, it has been seized. I said, well, I've got a CAN card. Bring it back. They said, no, we can confirm it has been seized and will be destroyed. And I'm getting furious, thinking, I fucking knew this would happen. But I said, I was so angry because I always thought Cancard was a bit shit. I always thought it was like if you're out and you got a bit on you, show them the card. They might just say, I don't want to see it. Put it back in your
Yeah, yeah,
pocket.
yeah.
You know, turn a blind eye. So I thought because they've seized it without telling me and then gone, I never had the opportunity to win. I never had the opportunity to show the card and get my turn a blind eye.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm furious, telling them you can't destroy it. It was the third call. They said there's officers that are going to come out and speak to you. They're on their way. Now the station's about 10 minutes away. It took them 2 hours. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's not too bad. 2 hours later, 2 a.m. But the point I was trying to make is this is a major issue because if you've got a prescription or a CAN card, if they're seizing it without even telling you, you don't have an opportunity to prevent the disaster. You have the CANCARD, as it did with me, which is truly amazing. It didn't just stop it getting seized; it actually got me it back. That
Yeah,
wasn't even promised. That's not even part of it that I was told about.
you
I
discovered
thought
it.
if I knew the guy had got it in an evidence bag there, seizing it, I could have said, "Oh, mate, I've got a card." Oh yeah, fair enough. Sorry. I thought that was it. They took it and it was logged in to property. It's gone.
How did it
Gone,
come back?
literally.
So, well, first of all, you've discovered a hidden feature of the CAN card, right? So
Right.
that is a feature. It's not a bug. Like, this is the idea. This is what we've been working on. This is what we've been banging on about for years and years and years, saying, "Hey, listen, it's not about just not not them seeing you as a criminal. It's also about we have a right to this." And look, I'm a medical user. It's like if you say to me, "Oh, I'm going to deprive you of food or oxygen or water," I have a right to this. And so I would like my rights to be intact. Please return my medical product to me. Whether you're using it in a medical capacity as an unlicensed medicine without a prescription, or you're using it as a prescription. It's harder, obviously, to confiscate it if you have a prescription, but more and more police forces across the country, even as we speak now, I've got my emails, I've spoke to an officer, a drugs liaison officer today, who's saying, yeah, the guidance now is if somebody has a reasonable amount of cannabis and they're in possession of a CAN card, their policy is just to just give it to them and just say, sorry, like, just don't be a dick about this, like, consume it medically, we're cool with you, like, hands off approach.
Mm.
So it's like, honestly, like speaking to these guys now is completely night and day to my experience prior to being a human being for the 39 years I've been alive. It's like
Yeah.
completely flies in the face. But it's so interesting. Did they bring it back in an evidence bag or did you just get a jar
Yeah.
back?
Yeah. So they had the evidence bag with the jar in it, and they
Yeah.
sort of opened it for me to take the jar out of the bag.
Didn't get to keep the evidence bag.
No, no, because I like evidence bags.
I would
So
have
no.
framed it, man. I would have framed that. That would have got a custom frame. I would have went on Etsy or something like that and bought a frame and just put it in there and wrote on it. Remember that
But it
time
did.
the cops sprung back your weed?
But it not only did it show the extra feature of CanCard of returning after the fact,
Mm-hmm.
it did also show a risk with the police, though, and an extra issue which we're not ready for is
Go
that you
on.
shouldn't be seizing things without telling us.
Well, that's
Um,
true. Yeah. I mean, they shouldn't have done that. I don't think. I mean, I'm obviously we're
not
not
that
trying
it
to.
would help.
No, I mean, no. You would be so surprised that it's not like that any longer, right? So we were able to work with the National Police Chiefs Council, right? And we have a de facto understanding that a medical patient for cannabis is not a criminal, right? That's the base level now. If somebody who is taking the steps in order to prove that this is medical use, whether they're self-diagnosed or the de facto standard is if you've got a CAN card, the cops are seeing you, and this is not all of them, but most of them, are as a medical patient. You're declaring your intention, right? So it's like a promissory note. It's a token, a gesture to show that you have a willingness to operate within the confines of the law, and that you're not just somebody who is just carrying weed around willy nilly, and you think this is a get out of jail free card. Some people use it like that, but very often that
I think
argument
it's
falls.
more than that, though. I think it's more than a promise because you take the summary care record,
Hmm.
you know that I qualify. Do you know what I mean? So it
Yeah, yeah,
isn't
yeah.
just we think this guy's been good. He's only using it sensibly. It's more than that. You know that there's a valid reason. So
Of
that no one
course,
with a
of
CAN
course.
card is just making it up. Do you know what I
No,
mean? Because they
I,
have
I
been
get
means
that. No,
tested.
but like what I'm saying in that regard is, yeah, there is obviously the declaration of the CSR, right? And you're saying, I have this medical condition. This is why I'm using it. Here's a long and detailed, potentially explanation of my right to this and why I should have it and why I'm using it. But they don't know that, right? So
Yeah.
most of them just see it as being a piece of card that you get, and it says that you can smoke medical weed. That's so layman's terms because you think about a police officer's job, right? One day, and that day, they may have done a domestic violence, a road traffic assistance. They might have turned up for RTA. They might have had a robbery, some other, random stuff. Two kids fighting. Go to a school. Somebody's reported were carrying a knife. How can they possibly know the entirety of the law? They're not
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? Like you could not possibly have that entire volume of every legal, uh, you know, point in your brain. So they need quick, easy tools, very easy to understand breakdowns. I think I would probably be if I was to go and survey officers. out there right now probably would and ask them what a care summary report is. Probably most of them wouldn't have a clue. They see a CANCARD, they know that you're trying to do good by the situation you're in and you're using it medically, and that's
Yeah.
almost enough. And should you ever enter a situation where you're in, we hope to get your medication back, because the fact of the matter is here is you're better with it than without it, right? Because for several reasons, for your medical purposes, for your wallet, right? Because it's not cheap, and obviously to minimize the amount of times that you need to go and visit a drug dealer, right?
Right. Right.
You know, the least times the better. Because, like you said at the beginning of the call, yeah, if you're a good, upstanding member of society who just needs cannabis for medical purposes, doesn't matter who you are, Tom, Dick, Harry, whatever, you're going in a drug dealer's car. At the end of the day, you're sitting in the passenger seat in a drug dealer's car and picking up some weed. And you're right. That shouldn't have to be where we all sit. Shouldn't have to be where we all go. There should
No.
be It should be cheaper, easier, more accessible, and better quality than what the
But
black
these
market.
drug dealers, I have a past, so I can look at people. I know 99% of threats from drug dealers are nonsense. I can laugh at people and tell them to grow up. But put a 55-year-old woman that's never, ever had any
No
experience, never even seen a
context,
bag
yeah.
of drugs, and she's in that situation and getting threatened because she had two fivers. And so, I don't know, some stupid issue, and then
Don't
she'd have a
take
heart
fibers.
attack and die.
Yeah,
You could kill someone, or she's too scared to buy the medication.
so
No
she
one
doesn't
should
use
be
it.
in that predicament.
Arguably, that's even worse that she doesn't use it for pain meds. So
And it's like
yeah,
you said to me, I never even thought of this. When they seized it, if they hadn't have given it back, I literally have to put myself in harm's way to get my medicine
exactly.
again.
It's
They've cost me
crazy. They're like,
money and put me at risk.
this guy who uses weed medicinally, who is a medical cannabis patient with a can card, is definitely not going to go and buy weed again. Like, dude, you've just facilitated another drug deal. Like, congratulations, thumbs up.
Funding
Like, you
them.
fucking like it's a nonsense policy. Like this whole thing, this policing of it. Everybody knows it doesn't work, but
Well,
realistically,
it's dangerous too. Kids will look at it. It's a Class B drug. They will think, well, they said this was dangerous, and I've smoked the whole ounce, and all I did was eat a pizza. Maybe amphetamine's no more risky than this then, because it's the
yeah,
same class. And it sort of presents that sort of incorrect idea that all Class Bs carry the same risk. And it's like, well,
exactly.
they don't.
The grading
Even when it
system
was
is
Class
completely
C,
screwed,
it's
man.
like,
We don't have a good grip of reality in this country, man. Like we just don't,
no,
and
well,
it's
it's
that
money.
straightforward. We
Money.
don't. Yeah, it's money. But honestly, like there ain't that. I think everybody knows now. Like only in very certain climates and certain circumstances is there a lot of money in cannabis. And like this whole idea about the green rainbow and the green pot of gold and everything, dude, like that's in the 90s or something like that. That ain't real.
Just a
Like
music
here's
video.
let's get it down to the brass tacks. The situation is crazy, but it's often takes a situation to be able to fundamentally takes a system to fundamentally break and fail until people see the absurdity of the prison that they created themselves. So
Yeah.
we will get there eventually, but it's gonna take longer. What's your closing remarks, George, without putting you on the spot?
Mine would be that I got a CANCARD in the first place as a novelty. It's a bit of a plug for a company that has nothing to do with me. In fact, I still need to review. I'm not even covered right now. But basically, to anyone, especially the people who commented on the last video, as you can clearly see, if I turn around, it is me from the back.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
Dead
not
ringer.
fake. And anyone who thinks it is, feel free to hit me up, and I can literally take you some photos of the door right now. That's not fake at all. But I used to think CanCard was a joke. Maybe one or two officers, if they're in the right mood, might turn a blind eye. I didn't really have any faith in it as a legitimate thing, and I would try and hide my weed from police. However, since what happened in that previous video, I'm not going to change what I do. I don't really take any out with me, but it's real. And if you're using it medicinally, you need a can card. You need to support can cards to help others, but you need one yourself because then you will be like me. If they seize it, they might just bring it back. So
Thank you, man.
that's my
This
last remark.
It's a great testimonial, and yeah, I agree. I think yeah, you don't. It's not about having just a prescription. Of course, if you have a prescription, you're above board. But a CAN card is like a net extra two-level authentication that the police automatically realise these days. Prescriptions are a different thing, and we might not all be able to read them. But CAN card is universally now by the police looked upon as being a standard that you are a legitimate patient. So yeah, cool, George. Thank you so much, my friend. I'll
you.
give you a
Thank
bell
you.
straight after this. But thank you, man. Absolute
Thank you.
legend. And
Been a
I'll
pleasure.
talk to you in a few minutes. Right, we'll call up and then I'll speak to you soon, man.
Cheers, man.